our dream. The Nigeria we need is the united, indissoluble, and cohesive Nigeria which guarantees equity, fairness, justice, and prosperity for its citizens. That is our focus on people, politics, and power. It is fresh, insightful, impactful. It's a must-watch. People, politics, and power on AIT. Join us to build bridges of unity.
Let's start with the state of the nation.
Yeah.
What do you think about these agitations and the call for restructuring and everything that is going on? People are already saying they want their own nation. What do you think about that?
Well, first of all, the leadership and the political system produced by the leadership, both of which are based on self-interest first, public interest second or incidental, instead of what we knew before the military took over. It was not perfect, but it was tending towards public interest first, a latent interest second. And that's why we didn't have this level of social disruption. We didn't have this level of corruption, stealing, and criminal waste of resources. To some extent, people regarded themselves as one. And political parties and political leaders behaved appropriately. I can remind you, of course, maybe you are not old enough to know it, there was a time when the Igbos of the Southeast were leading in patriotism, particularly national unity in Nigeria for good reason. They were leading. The NCNC was a political party based on the unity of Nigeria. But unfortunately, forces of feudalism, which we call Sarauta in Hausa, the colonial system, and the limited role of the economy eventually cause unnecessary grievances. For instance, the Southeast, as represented by the Igbos, was more enterprising than the rest of the country. That is, at that time, the North and the West. Now, the North was seeing it as something aspiring, but the Southwest was seeing it as competitive, because at that time, level of educational development decided the attitude of people to one another. For instance, the South, which means South-West, to some extent, not as hostile as it is today, looked at the North as semi-feudal, and they were progressives. So they had this low attitude towards the North, but it was still accommodated. It was still accommodated to the extent that we refer to each other by names if, for instance, the provocation was too much. For instance, if the provocation against in the North by the Southeast, the Igbos in particular, was too beyond they can tolerate, they call them enyamiri. That is, bring me water. That's all.
So
Simply because they can't speak Hausa, so the Hausas regarded them as less informed, and so on. Now, this went on without harming the system and even the leadership. But when there was conspiracy between the Southeast elites who had no reason for conspiring, and the Southwest elites conspired against the North, then the situation became violent. In spite of the presence of a rallying leader, Vic of Africa, still this happened because the Southeast elites and the Southwest elites conspired against the North, which was regarded as unprogressive, semi-feudal, and so on. And that eventually brought about the Civil War. Now, when Gawan came, Gawan came as a revenge kind of regime against the Iransi regime. Yes, quite all right. But Gawan prosecuted the Civil War in a very patriotic way. In the first place, he brought different sections of Nigeria, southeast, south-south, southeast, south-south, southwest, and the north. But in particular, the Wazobia, that is the southeast, the north, and the south. South. He brought them to identify with the regime, even though it was a revenge regime against the southeast, against he brought them together and prosecuted the war without hurting the economy too much and without feeling bitterness. Obviously, there was marginalization of the Southeast because of the Civil War, quite all right. But it didn't go beyond what you can expect in a war. Yeah. And what do we call him? Gawan came with a policy after the Civil War, after the surrender, of the three R's. And the three R really tried to reconcile the different sections of the country. But unfortunately, immediately there was another military coup against Gawan, which was basically political, unlike the previous one, which were ethnic, religious, and so on. Yes. This one was really political, because the outstanding allegation then was level of corruption, and that the governors, were not, they were doing what they liked, and government could not control the governor. And so, because of this problem of not continuing to implement Gawan's art, there has been no reconciliation. With the result that from Gawan's time, except during Murtal's time, there was a systematic and political attempt to continue the marginalization of the Southeast because of their competitiveness when compared with because they were in competition with the South West for control of the North, really, and the reaction of the North itself against both of them. The Southeast happened to be the victim of this conspiracy, and this victimization can be explained in many ways.
You have the belief that the system is responsible for what we are going through in Nigeria.
Exactly. Let me tell you, the agitation is not stronger; it's weak. Where I can say the highest level of this agitation was the recent event when this organization, this is not Biafra organization, IPO, yeah, exactly. When they called for boycott. And it succeeded. Yes, it succeeded. It succeeded simply because of the indifference of the federal government. Because the federal government knows right now that so many significant people in the southeast are not interested in secession. No, their basically agitation is economic and political. Do away with this marginalization of the southeast, which started after the Civil War and still continued. And there is evidence that, secondly, let we benefit from our sense of enterprise, which every Nigerian, whether from the north or from the southwest, accepted. They are more enterprising. Let us have the freedom to pursue our entrepreneurial spirit and so on. Let's have a Nigeria. We need, a lot of Igbo leaders said it, we need Nigeria because of our sense of enterprise. We need to expand in a united country. And this is not so because, until even recently with the coming of Buhari, it was quite clear this marginalization continued. It was pointed out to Buhari, particularly by Northerners, that you can't continue punishing people for the Civil War, which ended in such a pathetic way. It ended. You can't continue forever. No other country did so, but it still continued to the extent that during, for instance, Obasanjo's regime, he was told that people were being marginalized in favor of the Southwest. And Obasanjo openly said that he was favoring the Southwest because he was reconciling them with the. What sort of reconciliation do you need more than conceding the presidency to the Southwest? And when Buhari came again, starting with his kitchen cabinet, and you know kitchen cabinet is very important, and so on. And there was hardly nobody from the Southeast. And he was challenged by Northerners in particular. This is what happened. So let us not go away from the reality. We have a system based on self-interest first, public interest second, which has produced this level of negative state of the nation. And unless we start from the right position, we will never get away from this. And it is very difficult. We will only be killing ourselves for nothing. We have lived for whatever it is, we have lived for 100 years. All of us have become involved in each other. You know, we have been integrated socially, because you will find different parts of Nigeria living peacefully throughout the country. It is only when politics comes up that we had things like this. The moment we begin to have national leaders who will not tolerate this nonsense, like, for instance, Tafawa Balewa did his best in spite of the pressure from the north. We had people like Gawan, people like Murtala. Yes, and at one time we hoped very much we would have a person like Abiola who would unite the people, because I followed Abiola in his campaign throughout Nigeria, and I saw how he was accepted from all the rest of Nigeria, even more than from the Southwest. Now, if we have people like this, political leaders like this, who can address national issue in a humane and patriotic way, under a system, a different system. First, a system which will be based on reconciling the people, leading role of the state in the economy to ensure peace, equality, justice, dignity of the human person, and progressive even development of the whole country. I will give you a typical example. If the Southeast, which we all agree are more enterprising then the rest of the country can move freely like anybody and establish their enterprise, they live and so on and so. Who will be talking about what happened in the past? Like Biafra? No. We'll go back to the good days of the 50s when the people of the Southeast were the leading national patriots, were campaigning more for national unity than others. As a result, we had the first political party in Nigeria as the NCNC, and everybody knows that the NCNC policy was based on one united progressive Nigeria. And then we ended up, I think, let's say, 50s, up to 1953, 54, and so we coined ourselves and gave ourselves a symbol, Zico of Africa. We wasn't called Zico of Igbos. He wasn't even called Zico of Nigeria, Zico of Africa. Now, if we can go back to those days, and it is not impossible to do so, we can have peaceful, progressive Nigeria.
Recently, the northern youths sat together to say the Igbos should leave the north in the next 90 days. Is that a good call?
No, certainly it is not. In the first place, who are those people? They are just agreed people. They are not at the core of the system in the north. It's just like, for instance, I said, the recent successful boycott by some people in the east. Yes, it was very effective, the boycott. Nationally, politically, the federal government should have recognized it as something, it's a strong message. But all the same, it didn't represent the majority of the people of the Southeast, even if you call them Igbos. They are made up of people who are aggrieved, genuinely aggrieved. You know, so you can see the same thing now, because none of these youth organizations you mentioned, because I know almost some of them appeared only now. Some like Northern News Forum under Shatima, yes, has existed for a very long time. But how relevant is it in the power structure in the north? You know, you have not talked about northern elders. Have they been included? Northern elders, and there are 3 of them. They arose from the power structure of the north. None of them has been mentioned here. You know, so you can see what we now see in the reaction of this basically northern youth is exactly what we saw in the reaction of those who caused the boycott in the East. Both of them have genuine grievances, but it is up to a national leadership to bring them to order. What sense is there when some Igbos, not many, are in the federal government, and this is happening? Are they saying that they have not been able to call them? No, not only them. The first thing is not to call them, but to call the federal government they belong to and point out to the federal government, these are the problems, before even talking to the youth. But are they doing it? They are probably sharing the booty and forgetting the people in the Southeast and so on. We saw the same thing after the Civil War. We saw something very remarkable about the selfishness of the leaders of Nigeria, including those of the Southeast. I won't mention it. I won't mention the instances and even the names, because I don't want to increase the level of this identification, targeting.
The Nigeria of our dream, the Nigeria we need, is the united, indissoluble, and cohesive Nigeria which guarantees equity, fairness, justice, and prosperity for its citizens. That is our focus on people, politics, and power. It is fresh, insightful, impactful. It's a must watch. People, politics, and power. on AIT. Join us to build bridges of unity.
What is your understanding on this call for restructuring? Some persons from the Southwest are already calling for restructuring in Nigeria.
I agree with them. Basically, I agree with restructuring. But the point is this, we in the left are calling for restructuring in the political sense and in the economic sense. They are calling for restructuring so that they can get power. That is what we mean by this. We are calling for restructuring so that the economy can be reorganized. For instance, instead of this free for all enterprise, this privatization, this level of capitalist development, we want leading role of the state in the economy to ensure peace, equality, justice, dignity of the human person, and progressive even development. That's why we remember with hope events before the 1966 coup. So people are talking about restructuring with different intention. The genuine restructuring is political restructuring. For instance, definitely, we don't need these 37 federating units, that is state and Abuja. They are unviable. They can't even save salary of workers. We want a return to the regional arrangement where we had 3 and the later 4 through conspiracy. You know this.
They are clamoring for 6.
No, this, you know, the Midwest was created because of this conspiracy, which united the Southwest and the North against the East. Of course, the South were there, but they didn't matter. It was just the Wazobia. That is what created the Midwest. But of course, it was good. The Midwest was created by conspiracy between these other regions against but it turned out to be a good thing. I can tell you when the time comes how the Midwest even saved Nigeria. If without the action of Osadebe and his Midwestern people, probably Nigeria wouldn't have remained as we are today. It would have disintegrated. This is a long story. I can tell you later. I was there.
So you are calling now for regional governments?
Yes, we are calling for a return to the regional arrangement. This time, because of our complexity and level of population increase and so on and so forth, let's have 6 regions being the federating unit based on, for instance, the 6 zones we now have. If we have 6 regions with their constitution, with power, they can be self-reliant, stand on their own. They will not require federal government to bail them out. They will be independent. But the only care we should take is to make sure that the creation of the regions do not make our situation even worse. In other words, national unity must be a fundamental issue in the creation of these 6 regions. But they will be viable. In addition to that, obviously, we want continuation of this presidential system, because the presidential system is more effective for us developing country than the parliamentary system, because it's more decisive, it is more unifying. In the case of the economy, you can talk about capitalism, socialism as much as you like, but we want now for Nigeria to unite Nigeria, reconcile Nigeria, take the bull by the horn, what they call it. Let us have a leading role of the state in the economy to ensure peace, equality, justice, dignity of the human person, and progressive even development of the country. If we can have this, what will be the motive for marginalizing anybody? What will be the reason for these superficial allegations and things like that? We will be one united, progressive country. And there are countries that have achieved this. Why can't we achieve? We are very big, 170 million people. We are probably the 6th or 7th largest people in the world. With territory, the whole of Nigerian territory is productive. There is no part of Nigeria that doesn't have at least 3 months of rain in a year. And that's very important for the life of the people. Why, when we have all this abundance that is enough for everybody, why do we pursue these unnecessary quarrels, destructive quarrels? No.
Okay, now, are you one of those that are pushing for, but a lot of persons say the National Assembly is too verbose, it's too big. The number of legislative that we have in the National Assembly shouldn't be. Are you one of those?
That is not a factor. Okay. Let them do their work. We have a system which says the government is made up of 3: executive, legislature, and judiciary. Let us know that in spite of all this division, there is one reality. We are not an anarchy. There is this division, but one is more powerful than the other. Whether we like it or not, the executive, which is elected, should be more powerful than the legislature or the judiciary. How you express this makes the issue.
Okay, now, you said something at the beginning of this interview that our leaders are the problems.
Yeah.
We do not have
no, the system.
The system.
The system which produces the leaders. Yes.
Problem.
But you know, in Nigeria, the elites, the reactionary elites are talking about the leaders rather than
the system.
Though the leaders make themselves. No, it is the system that makes the leaders.
We want to look at Nigeria as a system today. Political parties. Do you think that we have genuine political parties in Nigeria today?
Here I have to be selfish in the sense that our party, the People's Redemption Party, is the only genuine political party based on principle, patriotism, national unity, peace, and progress. All the other political parties are formations by opportunists. Definitely, there is no doubt about it. We said our party believes in the leading role of the state in the economy because we have taken into account the fundamental problems. Now, all the other political parties are just political parties of opportunism, they rose from our past history, Action Group, MPC, and the variety of them. None of them is based on dignity of the human person and progressive even development of the country. They are all based on opportunism. I can tell you as it is today, I can tell you with authority, I am the national chairman of the CNPP, which is an umbrella organization for all political parties created in 2002 as a result of the fear of how far the electoral body, ANEC, and the government at federal, state, and local government could do to undermine the growth of political parties. So but I can tell you the truth, in spite of me being the chairman of the umbrella organization. There are political parties that consist of only husband and wife. In fact, 1 or 2 of them told me openly when I will say, look, political parties don't need subsidy from government. Political parties should survive on the basis of their membership They should be self-reliant. It is only then that the political party can be independent. And this man came here and said, look, Balarabe, let me tell you, in my party, it is only myself and my wife, and we want our share of the cake. That's all he told me. And let me tell you, let ANEC or any other person deny what I've said.
So that means we do not need...
Let me, I've finished. Okay. Look, if today you call a meeting of the political parties, unless you are prepared to pay everything for the party leaders' call, in other words, to pay for the accommodation, transport, and even pocket money, they will not attend the political party meetings, because they have to get something for nothing. Then how do you call these political parties? There was a time when some of the gatekeepers of political parties were relevant. Some of them have gone, there are no more. There was a time when ANEC called political parties for consultations. We waited for the ANEC chairman for 2 hours before ANEC chairman came. And whenever the ANEC chairman entered, all the other political parties, including names I wouldn't mention today, you will think very little of them, will rise up. Will rise up. I can't name for what. Until the chairman of the politics and the chairman of ANEC sits before they rose, before they sit down. I even had to go to meet some of them, and even at a meeting. Why should political parties be so subservient to the electoral body, to the extent that the chairman of the political parties, if they are relevant and united, should even tell ANEC chairman he serves the political system? But they couldn't. And what is happening today is even worse. It's even worse. When the government, federal government, couldn't face the Conference of Nigerian Political Parties, CNPP, when they couldn't face them, because the CNPP brought about the registration of 42 political parties through legal system instead of 6, which the electoral body wanted. And when the federal government found that the CNPP was really protecting the interests of political parties, they created another organization. I can't remember it. IP something. IPAC. Just to undermine CNPP. This IPAC was established really by ANEC and the federal government, just to undermine CNPP, to undermine the unity of political parties. The political parties that brought about this liberal form of registration and formation of political parties. If we had not done so with the patriotic help of Ganifa Himi, if we had not done so in court, by now we would have been having one-party system, or at most two-party system. One, the party in power, and the other ones, no, not opposition, loyal opposition, you should call it. Yes. In fact, we would have been having the APC, or not, well, as it is now that the table has turned, we would have had APC as the ruling party and PDP as the loyal opposition. This is what we would have, if not because of what we did in 2002 with the help of Gani Fahmy, and obviously the political consciousness of Nigerian people at that time, which was higher, particularly the press.
How do you feel that the 2019 election is still far off and people are already jostling?
No, it is not far off. Political parties should continue to the next government throughout the time of their life, except that they should not do so if it undermines progress. For instance, the fact that they have not lost an election, someone has won, does not mean that you should continue mindless opposition to the extent that you incapacitate the party that has won. When CNPP was formed in 2002, we had in particular 3 objectives. First, to protect political parties and political associations seeking for registration as political parties from the machinations of the electoral body and the government in power at federal, state, and local government level. Second, any party that wins free, fair, and democratic election should be allowed to perform and satisfy the needs of the people in spite of partisan political activity. Partisan political can continue, but we should help the party that wins free and fair election to perform. Thirdly, let we politicians, as represented by political parties, mind ourselves and make sure that we behave and satisfy the interests of the people for peace and development, and stop encouraging undemocratic forces from taking over power in Nigeria. These were the 3 objectives of the CNPP. And that is why the government, this reactionary governments we have been having from that time up to today, couldn't stand this. And they are now trying to undermine us by the creation of IPAC. Do you know what happens? While political parties finance their own meetings, and the CNPP finance their own meetings through contribution of political parties, IPAC is financed by ways we know.
Which ways? I want to know.
No. I'm telling, we know the ways.
Is it by the commission or the government?
No, not by the commission directly, not by the government directly, but through surrogates. I wouldn't call those surrogates because they have come, as they say, international organizations that have come to help Nigeria develop democracy. Do you know that? I know this because some of our members of the CNPP sometimes attend those meetings.
Okay.
And they live with donations of anything from 150,000 naira to 500,000 naira. And let me tell you, I'm not just, because I challenge ANEC openly over this recently when they call for a consultative meeting of political parties, civil society organizations, and so on, to consider their guidelines for the 2019 election. I took them on this through the press. I even refused to represent the PRP and attend any committee meetings of ANEC because of these things.
18 years of Nigerian civil rule. Are we on the right path of governance?
And uninterrupted peaceful civil rule or uninterrupted existence of Nigeria, but not peaceful existence. You are talking about, this is the problem sometimes I have with even our most valued associates, the media. What are you talking about 1999? What happened in 1996? Nothing significant happened in 1999. The only thing that happened in 1999 was that a military leader in uniform handed over to a military leader that has has thrown away the uniform. Because what happened? In 1999, Obasanjo, a past military president, still a military man, because by the laws, by the military laws, we understand once a general, always a general. So why was the transfer of power, civil power, from the military to civilian? There was nothing, except we want to deceive ourselves. A power was transferred to former military leader, to somebody who just was a and say he is ex-military man, ex-general.
That's what we are having today.
No, today the Buhari has learned better than Obasanjo because he made the deception even more excessive by saying that he should not be called general. He should be called, but it's just deceit, public deceit. He is basically a military man. Look at it, what happened. His activities very similar to that of Obasanjo. But let me tell you, the way he is treating the Biafra, I call them Biafra. No, I wouldn't even call it Biafra agitation. We should now call it, because the Biafras are now divided into and those who want a continuation of better Nigeria and those who don't want Nigeria at all. Now, those who don't want Nigeria at all are a section of the, what do you call,
IPOB.
Yeah, even they are not united. Some still want a continuation of Nigeria, which is better for all, and so on. Now, where are we?
You said Buhari, the way
Now, the way he is, the way he is behaving, which I call fascist. I said this even during the campaign before 2015 election. I said we would rather associate with PDP, which was clearly incompetent, but not fascist, rather than going to APC, which is fascist and has demonstrated in the past fascist tendency. Now, this fascist tendency really became quite clearer after the transfer of power to APC. Because remember, the treatment of all those who are opposed to the marginalization of the Southeast, this is what I will call, they are opposed to the marginalization of the South. They are not opposed to the existence of Nigeria. They are opposed to the marginalization of the Southeast, which is a reality which can be demonstrated. Now, secondly, the treatment of them, because their treatment was undemocratic, was dictatorial, and even fascist. Some people are aware of what is happening. Now, the treatment of the even Niger Delta, who are agitating for even more serious concern, that is resource control. You can't, after we have lived for 100 years, making sacrifices for each other, say now because we have an advantage, you want to control the society. Nobody does that sort of thing and get away with it throughout the history of Nigeria. So I'm giving you the fascist tendencies, the treatment of those opposed to the marginalization, the treatment of the Niger Delta, and the treatment of even political parties, because today political parties cannot organize peaceable demonstration without being shot. Even labor cannot organize peaceful protest on behalf of workers and get away with it. I experienced this 2012. And now look at what happened with the Shiites. Look, the Shiites here in Kaduna were demonstrating, not even demonstrating, were holding some procession, which even other religious bodies, both Muslim and Christian, sometimes hold. They hold the road, nobody could pass. Muslim organization and Christian organization do it. The Shiites were doing the same thing. Obviously, they were more, you could say they are more aggressive, yes, in the sense that it is total. Now, they interrupted the passage of a military officer. Just a military officer was passing through to Zaria to greet the emir of Zaria. They stopped him. When he persuaded them they couldn't open the road, he opened fire on them and killed about 8. There. Has he the power to do that?
On a final note, we just look at the Nigerian Constitution, 1979 Constitution and the Constitution we have today.
Not 1999 Constitution, not 79.
No, what we have today is 1999.
Yes.
But let's look at 79 Constitution and what we are having today.
There is a fundamental difference. Constitution is based on the system controlling every development of the country that you want to have. It is when you decide the socio-economic and political system you want to control all development in the country. It is then that you decide the constitution that will provide this. And then when the constitution is established, you elect the leader that will support the constitution and protect the system.
Do you think we have a constitution in Nigeria?
Yes, obviously we have a constitution, otherwise we'll be lawless.
One person said that constitution was, this 1999 constitution that we are using today, it was a military...
Obviously a defective constitution, but the constitution all the same. As bad as it is in the country, there are certain things that if you do, you will be punished. And that is provided for in the constitution.
And you don't think we need amendments?
Well, of course, every country needs to review its constitution, just as it has to review its structure. Every country, even the most successful country in the world, sometimes sit down and say, look, we have been so successful, but we have identified certain flaws. Let us review the structure and see how we can avoid these flaws. That is sensible.
Thank you very much for
Thank
being
you
part
very
of this. Thank you very much.